Hi, everyone. Good morning. We're here at ABC 10, day 2. Here at beautiful Barcelona. I'm Alona Stein, co-CEO of Revlon Tech PR Agency. I'm sitting here today with Piers Ridyard, CEO at RDX Works. How are you? Good morning.
Very good. How are you?
How has it been for you so far at ABC 10?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, like it's every year it gets a bit bigger. I think this year the turnout's been really great. The audience has been packed during the speaking events. It's not so big that it's hard to sort of see people, meet people. A lot of the exhibitors are very impressive, and there's a larger and larger number of institutions that are coming to these conferences as well.
Anything you found particularly interesting walking the floors here?
I think, look, like a lot of the ideas that crypto came up with in the early days are just now getting more and more polished. I think that there's less sort of like core innovation that's happening, and more people being able to map business requirements and business needs to what the technology is capable of. So I wouldn't say, like, from a technology point of view, there was anything that particularly blew me away here. But just from the point of view of people becoming much better at defining what the problems are in the industry that can be solved using the services that people are building. And it's great to see every year people becoming more commercial, more problem-oriented, and just becoming more polished.
Right. So you want to tell the audience about RDX?
Sure. So RDX is a layer 1 protocol focusing specifically on decentralized finance. We have built the platform for basically 3 reasons. The first is to solve the scalability issue within crypto. So creating a platform that's able to scale to millions of transactions per second without breaking atomic composability, which is something that you see as a big problem in the L2 space. It's a big problem in most sharded environments on public networks. RDX solves this problem with a very innovative set of consensus mechanisms that enables us to have linear scalability without breaking atomic composability. The second problem that we're solving is around security and developer experience. Right now in the crypto space, there are still regular hacks and exploits of individuals and of applications that build on top of crypto. And so we've built a suite of programming languages and execution environments that make it much easier for developers to build secure applications and much easier for users to interact with those secure applications without ending up having the kind of excellent hacks and exploits that you see in the crypto space today. And then the last aspect of is on user friendliness. Our view is that crypto is never going to become mainstream until it becomes super easy to use, super intuitive to use. And so we built a new set of user experience tools that make it much easier for everyday people to use the platform. Things like human readable transactions, so that you're not confused as to what it is that you're actually approving when you're approving some interaction with a smart contract. Things like seed phrase free onboarding, so that as a user, I don't have to worry about the seed phrase. I can do decentralized recovery, and I can make it so that just losing my phone or losing my device doesn't mean that I actually end up losing all of my crypto. And a bunch of other sort of like nice to haves that are on top of that. And so those things came together around a very long-term project we've been building for a very long time to build this stack that we sort of see as future-backed. Like, what is necessary of a piece of infrastructure that the world can rely on, so that everyone in the world could feasibly build and use public ledger technology, and then taking those requirements and then translating that into a full stack solution where we built every layer of the stack to address those problems.
So you guys are pretty much around DeFi scalability. Where do you see the opportunities and the challenges in the DeFi market these days?
So I think DeFi is a super interesting market. Like, the idea of disintermediation and transparency within finance is very appealing, not just to the crypto anarchists, but it's also very appealing to financial institutions as well. Things like FTX, things like BlockFi, things like Celsius continually show how much of a problem counterparty risk is. And what DeFi does is it removes a huge amount of that counterparty risk. And it creates tools for creating automated markets where previously those markets were highly human-driven, highly manual. And so while DeFi, when it first started in sort of 2019, 2020, was creating very efficient marketplaces for things that most financial institutions would look at and go, well, I don't care about that object, right? I don't care about that meme coin. I don't care about that like tokenized banana project. But what DeFi did is they created incredibly efficient marketplaces that were able to operate at scale, you know, with billions of dollars under management, with only like 4 developers, or like a team of 10. A team of 10 managing billions of dollars of AUM. And the reason they're able to do that is because the smart contracts do the heavy lifting. That's super interesting. And the difference in the cost base of managing that kind of AUM and the difference as a user experience in terms of getting that transparency, reducing the counterparty risk is really, really appealing to the institutional space as well. So what we're seeing is more institutions coming in and going, hey, while the assets that are in DeFi may not be that interesting to us, the underlying idea of how you can build these marketplaces, these financial marketplaces, these financial building blocks are super interesting. So how can we interact more with these kind of disintermediated, transparent, highly scalable pieces of infrastructure to create better markets for our clients, to create better tools for us to create financial products? And that's really starting to come to bear now in DeFi. You know, 4 years on from when DeFi summer happened, you're now starting to see institutions go, how can we play in this space as well?
So is this also where you see the next stage of growth for DeFi, or do you find it perhaps to be in other areas?
Yeah, no, I think there's sort of like, there's 3 things that are happening in DeFi right now, which I would sort of say is the 3 major trends. The first is pulling financial assets that exist in the real world into DeFi. The first example of that was actually stablecoins, right? Like just dollarizing a token. And like, look where that is. There's, sort of like tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars are being transacted every single day via stablecoin. The next phase of that we've seen is tokenized treasuries. So either yield-bearing stablecoins that wrap tokenized treasuries underneath it, or now we're seeing like PVO1 doing specifically tokenized treasuries directly, tokenized bonds directly on public ledgers, which then allow you to actually hold the underlying but in a tokenized way. You're seeing BlackRock bringing in tokenized funds. You're seeing a large number of other fund managers who are going, hey, we want in on that action. And the first market they're looking at is they're going, well, crypto is a $2.3 trillion industry. All of that money wants to diversify. Let's go to where the money is. Let's create products that we can access crypto capital via. So I'd say that's the first trend, is like creating crypto capital aligned financial products that are pulling real world financial products in via tokenization to public ledgers. The second trend that we're seeing is what I would call institutionally enabled marketplaces. So you think of like AMMs, automated market makers like Uniswap, as like retail enabled marketplaces. What you did is you had LPs who were generally individuals or whales who would take money, they would put it into a pool, and they would kickstart a marketplace to be able to buy and sell assets. That's also kind of where the centralized exchanges started. But what's happened since with centralized exchanges is that trading volume has increased. This has more and more been institutionally enabled. So market makers come on exchanges, and they're most of the offer book. So on a centralized exchange, when you have a central limit order book or a club, you have market makers who are continually putting on offers onto the book, and that creates your order book. And then you have takers who are coming in and who are buying into it, which means that most transactions on Binance, on Coinbase, is a retail facing off against an institution rather than a retail facing retail. Obviously, sometimes there's a coincidence of a trade, but most of the time is a market maker who's facilitating that buying. That's starting to happen within DeFi now as well. You're starting to see more and more market makers directly facilitating liquidity on things like Uniswap V3, Uniswap X, CowSwap, and a bunch of other markets where it's the market makers who are providing the liquidity and then the retail that's trading against that liquidity. I think you're going to see that an increasing amount where institutions are facilitating retail volume. And then the third point is institutions facing off against institutions. So in environments where institutions have a need what they often want to do is they want to aggregate liquidity across multiple venues. So if I want to do a lend borrow, for example, I want to do over collateralize. What institution doesn't like to do when it's over a certain amount is to face off against a single other centralized counterparty because of my counterparty risk. So what they tend to do is they'll go venue to venue. So I'll do a little bit of my lending on Binance, I'll do a little bit of my lending on Coinbase, I'll do a little bit of my lending on Kraken. What would be better is if I had a transparent marketplace to be able to face off against other institutions that have the same want as mine as opposite, right? And so I think that third phase you're also going to see as well. Institutions enabling other institutions to face off against each other via transparent, trustless, DeFi-enabled marketplaces rather than centralized vendors.
Very interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing with us. Any last words that you want to share with our viewers today?
Sure. I mean, I think that if you're looking at the DeFi space, one of the things that I think has been interesting in the previous DeFi booms was you saw crazy yields. Right? You saw 200%, 300% yields during DeFi summer. What you're seeing now is closer to real yields, right? And so what I think is interesting as a result of that is that more risk-adverse capital, there's now enough of a real market for more risk-averse capital to come in. And so while if you're a complete degen, you might be going, well, where's all the yield gone? If you're a everyday person or someone who's thinking how can I get an 8% yield on my cash or a 5% yield on my cash, DeFi is now matured to the point where that's actually sustainable and realistic. So I think if you're crypto aligned, looking at more ways in which you can bring your capital into savings products as well as high alpha yield generating products is just now the next evolution of the crypto space. And I strongly encourage anyone who is comfortable with the risk of that to do that, because I think it's the next wave of how DeFi is going to become more and more.
And very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.